So how are you doing so far? I hope you're having a great day and making it an awesome one. Well, in this lesson, we're going to be talking about the specific shape creation tools in Photoshop. However, we have already talked about the concepts of how it all works, how the parts in the fill come together. Do you know where? Can you guess it? We have talked about it in an earlier lesson on Pen Tool. If you haven't watched that yet, I would highly recommend that you go back and watch it because that is the base for this video and many other upcoming videos. And that's important too because once you understand parts and fills, it'll be very easy for you to understand illustration software like Adobe Illustrator and others moving forward. So without any further ado, let's get started with the very first tool right here, and that's going to be the rectangle tool. Back in the magical world of Photoshop, and where do you find the rectangle tool? Well, it is inside the shape group, the very first tool right there. If you click and hold, you will find the rectangle tool, and any tool that you select, what did we learn before? The options or the settings or the features of that tool will be at the top in the options bar. So let's not worry about it right now. Right now, let's learn how to draw a rectangle. As simple as that. So all you have to do once you choose the tool, you can choose the fill of the rectangle. You can change that later as well. So let's say I want my rectangle to be, let's say blue. So I'm going to pick blue. You can pick any color you want. You can just double click on in here, choose whatever color you wish and hit OK. If you want your rectangle to have stroke, which means border, you can choose that color here as well. If you don't want it to have any stroke, you can click here and choose the first one with a cancel bar cutting right through it. All right. If you don't want any fill, you can click on that one right there as well. All right. So right now we are creating a rectangle with a purple-ish fill with a 0 stroke. And all we have to do is to just click and drag. As simple as that. And the properties of that rectangle will be shown up in the properties tab. If you cannot find the properties tab, you can always go to window and then make sure that at the bottom right here, properties is checked. Okay. Once you check that, you'll see it again. All right. Let's collapse it. So this is how you draw a rectangle. Now, how do you change the color and add stroke later? That's simple as well. So if you changed your mind on the color, you can always single click on the fill and you can choose whatever color you want. It'll change real time, absolutely non-destructive, and this is a vector, my friend. So you can change the color, and let's say you changed your mind and you want a stroke now. So you can just click on the stroke and choose whatever stroke you want. So let's say I want black stroke. Right now the stroke is not visible. Why? Because the thickness of the stroke or the border is 0 pixels. So we need to increase it. So as we increase it, you will see the stroke is created inwards. It's being created inside the shape. You can always change that by this drop down right over there. So if you click on that drop down, you can have dotted stroke, this kind of stroke, lots of varieties. Now, you can choose to have it in the center. You can choose to have it inside, or you can choose to have it outside the shape. Makes sense? So what will happen is with the middle one, it'll be in the middle of the path, and the top one will be inside the path, and the bottom one would be outside it. Now, while creating strokes, a couple more things that you have to decide on is the caps and the corners. So if you open that again, you will see caps and corners. Now in this case, you won't find caps because caps are usually applied at the end of a path. Now this is a closed path, right? So you won't be able to see it right here. Now let's talk about corners. There are 3 types of corners. This is rounded one, and this is at the edge, there's a cut. So you won't be able to see different changes in corners. Do you know why? Because the stroke is on the inside. As soon as you have the stroke in the middle or the outside, you'll be able to see the difference. Now have a look at the corner. This is rounded corner. There's a cut right there. And this is, cornered corner, right? Squared corner. All right. You have a lot more options right there if you want dashes. So this is custom. So if you want dashed line, you can check that and you can control the distance. 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. So you can control so for the first one, you'll have a dash of 2. For the second one, you'll have a gap of 2 and then dash of 4, then gap of 2, then dash of 2, gap of 4. You can just control it accordingly. All right. This is something not very much useful. So let's go with the first one. Sometimes they are useful when you're trying to create a specific design, but if you're more into graphic designing, I would highly recommend learning Adobe Illustrator because that is the thing for it. Okay, This is basically it. Now what about gaps? You can't really see it in this case, and that goes beyond this lesson because in this lesson we are discussing the shape tools in Photoshop and most of these are closed. So gaps are not really applicable, but I'm gonna show you anyway. So let's select the pen tool and let's make an open path. Okay, now it's being created in the same layer right now, so if you want to create it separately you can do that as well. So I'm going to create a brand new layer, and in here I'm making an open path just like this, and then let's create a solid color adjustment layer, and we can choose whatever color we want. We don't have to fill it, so we can go to the shape tool, and at the top we don't want any fill, so we can always just click on it. First of all, let's choose shape right there at the top, click on the fill, and we don't want any fill. And then in the stroke section, let's create a black stroke, and let's have about a very thick stroke so that you can understand what gap is. Now if you go down right here, the first one is where the stroke just ends, where the path ends. So if you look at the path right there, see, the stroke just ends where the path ends. Alright, now let's understand the second one. The second one is, it shows you in the icon where the path ends, it just rounds itself. Have a look, it just rounds itself. If I minimize it, it similarly did that at the top. Now the third one, it's a square. It doesn't end where the path ends, and it just squares around it. So I hope you understand it. It's very self-explanatory. So now you understand what gaps is. It only applies to open paths. You understand what corners are. How are the corners are going to be when you add a stroke? And alignment. Do you want it to be inside, in the center of the path, or outside the path? That's up to you. You can also have dashed lines, dotted lines, and you can control how much gap there is. If that's a dashed stroke, you can control the length of the dash and the gap and the third dash and the fourth gap, so on and so forth. Alright, so that's all about fills and strokes. Now you must be thinking, rectangle is alright, but how do I draw a square? Simple. When you just drag a rectangle, it does not maintain any proportions, right? And what is a square? It is simply a rectangle with equal width and height. That's all there is to it. So while you drag a rectangle, just hold the shift key. This will keep the width and the height equal, and thus you can draw a square. As simple as that. Now sometimes in some designs, you would want to drag a square or a rectangle from the center. How do you do that? Well, right now when you drag a rectangle, you drag it from the corner. Right? What if you want to create it from the center? There's a center point and you want to create a rectangle around it. How do you do that? All you do is, when you start dragging the rectangle from that center point, without letting go of your mouse or tablet, hold the Alt key, and then now you're creating it from the center. Make sense? Now I'm going to do that again for you. This is a little tricky. If you hold Alt beforehand, it'll show up the eyedropper, and no matter what you do, it'll just keep on sampling. It won't work that way. All right, let's choose the right color. Let's choose blue, and we are in the rectangle tool. When you just start dragging without letting go of the mouse or the tablet, just hold the Alt key, then see, now it is being created from the center. Just keep in mind, you have to hold the Alt key later, once you have started dragging. All right, makes sense? Now let's understand, how do we draw a rectangle if we have a specific data requirement? So let's say we have to draw a rectangle which is 3 inches by 3 inches, right? Or let's say which is 100 pixels by 100 pixels. You're working on an A4 sheet of paper. So let's go ahead and create File, New, and let's say we are creating something for print. And let's go for an A4 size sheet. Now inside of that sheet, you need to draw a rectangle which is 3 inches by 3 inches. How do you do that? How do you have that exact number in place while you print? Well, now printing is a whole new different class. But right now, just for layman's terms and having a basic idea of how it all works, all you have to do is, instead of dragging to create a rectangle, just simply click on it with the rectangle tool selected. So click, see, it's gonna show you create rectangle. Now you can just type in 3 inches by 3 inches. You can type in the units as well, whether pixels or inch, whatever works for you. You can also check from center. If you have clicked at a point where you want to create a rectangle from the center, you can always check that, but we don't need it in this case. Hit OK. And we have a rectangle which is 3 inch by 3 inch on an A4 size paper. Now keep in mind, when we are doing something on the screen, which is a pixel unit, and pixel is not a physical unit, it's a digital unit, 3 inch doesn't make sense. Therefore, we need something for reference, and that's why I was telling you 3 inch on an A4 size paper. It just depends on what you have defined as PPI while creating that A4 size paper. Okay, so right now it has 300 PPI. So if we go by 300 PPI or 300 pixels per inch, in that case, you can tell that this is 3 inch by 3 inch. Okay, or in other words, we can also say that this is 900 pixels by 900 pixels. You know why? We talked about it in a very early lesson. Because every inch has how many pixels? 300. So 300, 300, 300, 300, 300, 300. So 900 pixels by 900 pixels. Don't believe me? Well, if you just simply open up the properties right here, have a look. Width is 900 pixel, height is 900 pixels. Magic, right? Well, it's all simple maths. Now let's talk about the properties of rectangle, not in mathematics, but inside of Photoshop. So let's go ahead and draw a rectangle, and after that we'll get to some cool application. So don't worry about it. So let's draw a rectangle. Right here you will find properties. Now if you're using Photoshop 2021 or 2020, you will find at the corner there are these round points right there. Using those points, you can control the roundness around the edges. So let's see what they are. So as soon as you take your cursor over it, it'll show you an arrow with a curve next to it, which means that when you drag it now, see, it just creates a curve around the corner. This is very useful if you are creating, let's say, an icon or creating a UI. This looks super good. Apple does it all the time. Alright, you can also control it with the properties. Again, if you cannot see the properties, you go to Window and then make sure properties is checked. Right here, you will find the roundness, which you can increase and decrease. If you want different roundness levels on the 4 sides, just break the link. Have a look. This link, it just keeps all the 4 sides synchronized. So once you uncheck that or unactivate it, if that's the word, deactivate is the word, I'm sorry. Once you deactivate it, you can control the corner separately. So you can have more here, less on the other one, like very or a little bit here and none in here. So this is a shape that you might want. Now this is pretty interesting. However, you must be wondering, what is Pathfinder right there? Don't worry, we'll get to that later. But for right now, let's learn a super cool effect. Now let's say in this example, you want to add some fancy text. You want to add text in such a way that there's a rectangle and the text is just cutting it in that area. For instance, let's say we have a rectangle. Let's draw a rectangle right there. And let's type in something simple. Let's choose the color white. And now on top of that, I'm going to choose the text tool. And on a brand new layer, I'm going to write something here. And let's write cars. Okay. Or simple car wash. And let's change the text color to black. It doesn't matter right now. And let's make the text a little bigger. Pretty darn good. Now what if I want this car wash text to make a hole in that rectangle so that we can see through the photo? Well, usually masking will come to mind. Usually what we would do, well, we would hold the controller command, then click on the thumbnail of the car wash so that the car wash text is selected. Just turn it off and then select a rectangle and create a negative mask by holding the Alt key or the Option key. Click on the mask button. Now that area is cut and you can see through it. So we can now move the rectangle and you can just see through that car wash text. Now let's say you want to change the text, or you want to change the font, or you want to do something. Maybe you want to change the kerning. Maybe you want to do something in here. Maybe you want to make it bold. Maybe you want to make it thin. What do you do then? You would have to do the process all over again because this is burned down to the pixels. Whatever you do in the mask is not a vector. So how do you make it non-destructive? Well, a better way to do it is this. So all you have to do is to double click on the right hand side of the car wash layer. And from here in the knockout section, you can simply choose shallow and hit OK. Nothing happens because right now it is filled with black. So we need to decrease the fill to 0. It completely knocks out and makes a hole in that area. By the way, there's a problem with this. You know what that is? Right now, even if I take a brush and paint something even under the rectangle, it'll be cut as well. So if I take, let's say, green as a color, and let's paint something right here, flow and opacity at 100. See? It's also making a hole through that. We only want it to make a hole in the rectangle. How do we do that? Well, for that, you need to keep both of these inside a group. So let's choose the car wash, hold the Ctrl command, select the rectangle, press Ctrl command G. Once they're inside a group and the knockout right here is set to shallow, then it'll just hole through or just knock out through the things which are inside the group. Anything which is outside the group, it won't disturb. Alright. However, if you have deep selected, it'll just go through everything until the background layer. So if you hit OK right now, and if you just unlock the background layer, it'll just make it absolutely transparent, make a hole through everything. So the best thing to do is that the things you want it to make a hole through, you put it in a group and choose the knockout mode right here to shallow. Makes perfect sense. You can just take away the green. And the best part right here is you can change the font, do whatever you want. You can double click on the T, you can just make it light, or you can change the text to whatever you want. You add something, it still works. Pretty cool trick, isn't it? So let it be the way it was, and then you can just modify the rectangle. It's absolutely customizable. And that's what I love about it. I will do anything to make a step non-destructive in Photoshop. Now you can select both of this and just place it anywhere you want. Pretty cool text effect. Just wanted to show you the knockout feature. Now let's talk about the rounded rectangle tool in Photoshop. What is that? It is simply the rectangle tool. That's it. With a little bit of roundness added around the corners. That we can also do with the rectangle tool. It is just there. Alright. So let's go ahead and choose the rounded rectangle tool right there. And as you can see, once we draw it around the corner, there's a little bit of roundness already. So you can just come down and you can just increase it. First of all, let's activate the link so that all of the 4 sides are linked properly. And it's the same thing. It's just the same rectangle tool. You can just take the rectangle tool, just do this, and then you can just increase the roundness along the corners, and it is the rounded rectangle tool. It is just there as, you know, a bogus tool. I don't know why it is there, but it is just there, and it already has some roundness around the edge. You can also make it a rectangle by reducing it to 0. You know, it's just a tool just right there just to show off. Now, before we move on to the next tool, let's do some super cool stuff, because if we don't do it, this lesson can get boring. So let's go ahead and choose the rounded rectangle or the rectangle. Does it really matter? So choose the rounded rectangle, and we want to create a shape from the center. So you click and drag and then you hold what key? The Alt key. And let's do something like this. You can also keep it square by holding the Shift key as well. There you have it. Now I want to add some roundness Now keep in mind, you can change this later. That's the great part. Now let me show you some creative fill. So you can go to fill. It is not just solid fill. You can also fill in a gradient. You can also fill in a pattern. Interesting. So I'm going to fill in a gradient. So let's say we're creating an icon of some sort. Maybe something like Photoshop's icon. So on the left hand side, you can just double click on it and choose whatever color you want. So I'm going to go with a dark bluish color. Hit OK. And on the right hand side, let's go for a light bluish color. Double click on it here. And then you can choose something like this. Okay, that looks pretty decent. Hit OK. Nice icon. Also, I want to add some stroke to it. So let's just go here. And first of all, let's increase the thickness. Let's keep it at about 40. 40 is good. It was around 40.16. Just a little. The mind feels good when things are round figured. So let's go ahead here as well. Let's go with the gradient. So let's zoom in and go with the gradient. And here, double click on it here. I'm going to pick the same colors. So what if I pick in this color, something like this. Hit OK. I'm sorry, this was not a gradient. So let's go to the gradient. For the left hand side, you double click on it. Let's pick a color. So I'm going to pick a dark color like this and make it even darker. So make it darker and probably just increase the saturation or decrease the saturation a bit. Or what if you make it lighter, just a little bit lighter? So we take this color or take a lighter color from right here. Okay. Hit OK. For the top one, right hand side, you double click on it and choose a lighter color and just make it a little more lighter. Something like this. Looks very, very interesting. Let's make the stroke even thicker. Let's go for 50. How do you feel about that? That looks interesting. Now you can add some text on it. So I can just go to the text tool, and I don't want to add inside it or confirm it inside it. Let's create it on a brand new layer and type in the name of your application. Photoshop has PS. So let's say I have an app of my own. So I'm going to type in UD and double click on the T and then just change the color to white and just place it in the center like this. By the way, if you want to place it in the center of this shape, you know what to do. Hold the Control or Command, click on the thumbnail of the rounded rectangle, and then with the text layer selected and the move tool selected, you can just center it horizontally and vertically. Alright. Once you have centered it, press Control or Command D, Control or Command T to open up the transform controls. I'm sorry about that. And then make it bigger according to your choice. So there you go. This is a nice application icon. And if you want some more reflection, you can also do that. Just above the rounded rectangle, let's create a brand new layer. And in this layer, we can just add another rectangle, a regular rectangle. Let's make a large rectangle. And we want to make a white rectangle. Press Control or Command T. And you want to make reflection kind of thing that you see on the TV. And we only want to limit it just to the rounded rectangle. How do we do that? Hold the Alt key or the Option key and click on the line between these two layers. Then you want to create it as a reflection, decrease the opacity. Let's decrease it to about 20. What do you think about that? Or let's go for 25. Then create a mask, click on the mask button and choose a gradient. And we're going to create a super nice gradient, something like this or this. Whatever feels good to you, from top to bottom or bottom to top. That's up to you. This looks interesting. Now let's take a look. This is a very interesting logo, right? Now one thing you must have noticed that once we created a clipping mask, it's not really applying it on the stroke area. No matter what we do, even if we create a brand new layer and we hold the Alt key or the Option key and click on the line between these two, if we take a brush and if we paint with black, it's not applying on the stroke. How do we apply it on the stroke? Well, first of all, let's unlink it first. Hold the Alt key or the Option key, click on the line between these two layers. And then all you gotta do is put it in a group. Press Control or Command G, put it in a group. By the way, the background is white so that you don't see white on white. So let's change the background to something off white so that you can or let's change it to a darker color. Maybe this. Okay. Now you want to limit it to the logo, but if you do it without creating a group, let me ungroup it again and show it to you again. So if I ungroup it, if you directly create a clipping mask by holding the Alt key or the Option key and click on the line between these two layers, it's not being applied on the stroke, right? Again, let me show that to you again. If we try to paint with anything, I can't really, no matter how much we paint, I can't really apply it over the stroke. How do we do that? First of all, let's unlink them. Then put just this logo in a group. Select the first one, press Ctrl or Command G. Actually, it's a shape. Ctrl or Command G. Now, in this group, you just have this shape. Now, apply it just to the group. Hold the Alt key or the Option key and click on the line between these two layers. Now it works. See? So when it doesn't work on the stroke, just put it in a group and it will work fine. Now, if you just paint and create a clipping mask, it'll just cover the stroke as well. So a simple fix to that, and a very interesting logo that you can take forward. Now let's move to the triangle tool. It's simply a polygon with 3 sides. So again, I don't know why do they have it. You can just choose the triangle tool and create a triangle. Okay, simple triangle. You can also just add some roundness around the corners by using these points, just like we did with the rectangle tool. But also you can do this. You can choose the polygon tool, and you know what is the triangle? It's simply a polygon with 3 sides. So choose the number of sides of polygon to 3, and then you can just draw a triangle. And you can control the roundness here as well. These are just bogus tools. You have this rounded rectangle tool, this triangle tool. I don't know why Photoshop is creating these. Probably for the people who are just looking for a simpler Photoshop. I don't know, it's just there. Okay, so let's say you have one option in the triangle tool though. If you choose the triangle tool, if you click and if you create by data, you have the option to create an equilateral triangle. And then you can just, these are corner radius, like how much roundness you want in the corner, and hit OK. See? So, by the way, you can create a similar thing with the polygon tool as well. So if you choose the polygon tool and if you single click, so instead of equilateral, you can just choose symmetric. And maybe width and the height, let them be about 500, or let's go for 800 by 800. Okay. And then you can have number of sides 3 and you hit OK. This is also equilateral, right? So it's just there, you know, some tools are just there. Now let's talk about these things, the Pathfinder things, right, that we learned about before. So let's create a hut, okay? And we're gonna combine the shapes and also subtract from it. We'll learn how to work with Pathfinder. So let's draw a triangle. We don't want any roundness. So let's draw something like this. Looks pretty good. And the color we're going to choose is black. Also, you can change the color from double clicking on the thumbnail right there, because this is a shape. Also, we have discussed it in the pen tool video. Let's choose black. And let's say we are creating an icon for a hut or a home. So let's place it in the center. A little bit at the top. And we can always stretch it a little bit. Okay. And by the way, to stretch it, if you just stretch it without holding the shift key, it will maintain the proportions. So hold the shift key and then stretch. And also if you hold the alt key as well, it'll just stretch it from the center. So I'm going to make it something like this and make sure it's in the center. Then on top of that, let's create a rectangle for the house. Just like this. A little bigger than that. Okay. Let's center this one as well. Now keep in mind, it's on a brand new layer. Make sure right here at the top, new layer is selected. Otherwise, weird things will happen if these are selected. Now press Ctrl or Command A and select the move tool and center this one as well. Center this one horizontally. Now you can make it a little shorter like this. Okay. Now let's create a door. Press Ctrl or Command D if the selection was still active. So for the door, you can again use the rectangle tool right there and add some more corners around the edge. So I'm gonna create one more new rectangle like this. and add a little bit of roundness around the edge. Or add full roundness. Make it sound like this. Cool. So this is something for subtraction. Center this one as well. So I want to subtract this from there. And we want to join this. So we want to join this triangle that you see and the rectangle. And we want to subtract this one. Now, as we learned before, if you merge the shape layers, they don't rasterize. So select the first shape layer, hold the shift key, select the last one, press Ctrl or Command E to merge them all. Now we want to combine the triangle and the rectangle. So let's come to the shape and we only want to select the triangles. Hold the Ctrl or Command and click on the triangle right there to select the triangle. And to also select the rectangle, keep holding the Ctrl or Command and hold the shift key as well and click to also select the rectangle. Now the triangle and the rectangle both are selected, and then you can just click on the drop down right there and choose Merge Shape Components. Choose yes, and now both of them are just one shape. Now if you want to subtract this one, just come to the shape tool and then you can just click on that, and then you can just come to the Pathfinder and just choose this one. This one is Subtract Front Shape. Okay. That way you will also have access to this shape. This will be a live shape. You'll be able to control it, right? You can save it as an icon, but as I told you, it's best if you do these things in Adobe Illustrator. But if you don't want to go in depth into learning Illustrator and starting from scratch, then you can do these simple things in Photoshop. That's fine. Now let's talk about the ellipse tool a little bit. It's a really important tool and I'm going to show you its application directly. So whenever you upload your photos to a platform, let's say a social media platform where the profile picture is in circle, like WhatsApp or like Instagram right now at the time of shooting this video, it's circle. How do you make sure that it's rightly cropped? Or if you want to add some border around the circle, how do you do that? Well, that is something you estimate using the ellipse. So right now here is my portrait and I've already cropped it in square. And you can tell by the dimension at the bottom. By the way, if you cannot see the dimension, you can click on this arrow, make sure document dimensions is checked. You can see that it's 2500 by 2500 pixels right there. Okay, so it's a square. So what you can do, let's say I were to upload this to Instagram. So I can create an ellipse tool. And by the way, it's a simple tool, just like the rectangle tool. It creates an ellipse. And if you want to keep it square, you can hold the shift key. It maintains the proportions. Simple thing. Now we can choose the ellipse tool and then click and you can choose from center and again 2500 by 2500. Why this number? Because the dimension of the document is 2500 by 2500. So hit OK and then place it in the center. It creates the ellipse from the center of where I clicked. If you check create from center, just place it in the center of this document. Okay, and you can then decrease the opacity. This will give you an idea of what you will see in Instagram. Or if you want to have a better look, here's what you can do. If this is a background layer, unlock it. Then you can just place the ellipse below it and create a clipping mask. Hold the Alt key, the Option key, click on the line between these two. This is how you will see it. All right, in the background, you can just create white so that you can see what's happening. So I'm going to create a white or a black background just at the back, or let's choose gray, something like this. So this is what you will see in Instagram. Now if you want to create some borders around it, you can do that as well. So I'm just going to make a copy of this ellipse, place it at the very top, and let's add some stroke to it. So let's go to the shape tool right there. And we don't want any fill on this one, so click on the cancel, and we want a little bit of stroke, so let's increase it. See, it's adding that stroke. We want to change the color of the stroke to this red t-shirt right there. So double click on in here and just sample this color. Maybe take a brighter color like this. Looks good on Instagram. And there you have it. You can just make it 90. I think it's too thick. All right, this is how it's gonna look on Instagram. What you can also do is that in the background you can just choose a black color and then just directly upload it to Instagram, and it'll be cropped in a way where you will see the border right there. Very interesting, something you can do, and it's very good for estimating how your profile picture will look in a round frame. Now then you have the line tool, very simple. If you want to create a line somewhere, it's useful. So choose the line tool right there and then you can just draw a line. It's simply an open-ended path. That's all there is. Fill won't work here. All you gotta do is to just increase the stroke. And by the way, this change you can see only in the later versions of Photoshop, which is Photoshop 2021. And then you can just make sure stroke is not visible because the alignment is inside. So you can keep it in the center or outside. Now stroke I've chosen to be very thick. There you have it. It makes sense. Now let's zoom out. And then you can control the line, move it here and there. Press Ctrl or Command T, move it. And then you can also simply control the line by moving the points. And by the way, this only works with Photoshop 2021. In the earlier versions of Photoshop, it was a little tricky. In 2021, you can just choose the line tool right there. And then you can just move the points and easily move the line in any way you want. So simple, isn't it? Now moving to the final tool of this lesson, and that is the custom shape tool. It has a lot of custom tools and that's all there is to it. So just choose the custom shape tool and here you'll find a lot of shapes. So if you just open groups, there are leaf trees, there are wild animals, there are very complicated shapes as well. So all you gotta do is to just drag it. If you want to maintain the proportions, hold the shift key. Super cool. You can use this as logos or as however you want it. Now keep in mind this is a vector, so you can just make it as big as you want it or as small as you want, and big again, it won't pixelate. And if you want to modify it, you can also do that as well. You can just zoom in, and we learned that in the pen tool video. So you can choose the pen tool and then you can just modify these points, and we learned exactly this in the pen tool video as well. So that was custom shapes. So how do we create our own custom shapes? And by the way, before we move on to that, you can change the color to whatever you want by double clicking on the thumbnail and choose whatever color you like. So I can change it to black, and there you go, black. Alright, now how do we create our own custom shape? Well, that's pretty simple. You just go to the pen tool and create a shape of your choice. This is a custom shape. I don't know what that is. Let's just suppose this is a bean, right? Okay, and you can modify it again. And let's say it's a lousy bean. Let's create a solid color adjustment layer. Choose whatever color you want, that doesn't matter. Right click on it and then simply choose define custom shape, and then you have a bean shape. Just make sure here it looks okay. White are the areas that are filled and black are the areas that are not. And we can name it bean, and let's name it okay. It doesn't look like a bean, but you get the point. Then you go to the custom shape. Here you will find the bean right there. Right in there. And by the way, let me show you something special. You can also convert text to shape. And why would you do that? Well, let's say you created a watermark or a branding or a logo, something with text, right? And you did save it as a PNG with transparent background. But if you do save it as a PNG, no matter how high the resolution, it will still be a raster image. If you keep making it larger and larger, at some point, it will pixelate. Plus, you would lose the ability to modify something as you do with regular shapes. Just modifying the path and just modifying the shape, it'll be difficult. So let's say I was in the car detailing business and I was to create a branding of my own. So let's choose the text tool right there and let's type in D-I-N-D-A, Dinda. That's my last name. Choose black, double click on the T and choose black color right there. And I want it to be light. Don't worry about the size right now. Let's place it in the center right there. Hold the Alt key or the Option key, click and drag it and bring it down. We have a copy and detailer. Okay. And in this one, I want to have it bold. Okay. Let's make it smaller. Now you can just do all the fancy things. I'm just doing it fast just to show you the concept of how it works. Let's move it a little bit to the right. Just make sure everything is well aligned. You can also use guides. Press Ctrl or Command R. Just drag a guide right there. Just right here. And make sure that this is aligned. So just bring it right there. You can also add a guide on the right hand side. So I'm just gonna drag in a guide. Let's choose the detailer layer. And then you can make it smaller just so that it aligns with that of the guide. Super cool. All right. And let's say you want to convert this to a shape so that you can add it anywhere in any image. And you can make it as big as you want, as small as you want. So select the first text layer, hold the Ctrl or Command, select the second one. Both of them are now selected. Right click on it and then choose Convert to Shape. Both of them are now shapes. Definitely we want to merge them. Press Ctrl or Command E. Both of them are now merged. Now this is a vector, my friend. So select the pen tool, right click on it, and then choose Define Custom Shape. And let's name this. Okay, so here we have a car image. Let's say we detailed it. And all you have to do is to go to Custom Shape right there. And here you will find Dinda Detailer. Just create it. As simple as that. No matter how big you make it, small you make it, it'll never pixelate. Plus you can change the color to whatever you want. Double click on it and you can change the color to whatever you wish. Plus you can modify it however you want. So if you want to make the R bar a little longer, you can go to the pen tool right there and just hold the Ctrl or Command, select that, and then you can modify it, just make it a little fancy. That's totally up to you, right? Super cool ways to modify this, and that's how you convert text to shape. Again, it's a vector. So that's all about all of the shape tools in Photoshop. Just keep in mind, it all boils down to paths and fills. That's it. What is a shape? It is simply a path with a fill in it. And there are lots of ways you can customize it. That's all. But basically, it's just a path with a fill. Now in Photoshop, you have different features, like if you create a rectangle, you have the ability to add some roundness around the corners. Similarly with the triangle and the polygon, and then you have the ability to subtract shapes and combine shapes. And if you're dealing too much with shapes and designs, I would highly recommend learning Adobe Illustrator as well, because that is the thing for graphic designing. But if you're not fully into graphic designing, Photoshop is more than enough for you. I hope this lesson helped you. See you in the next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.